Well, not a sunny day, a joyous day. Good morning, everybody. We are under some time constraints because Mayor Lee and members of the board have some additional responsibilities, and I want to give them the opportunity to say a few words as well. There are a number of community leaders here who I'd like to acknowledge as well. I want to express gratitude to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals for its ruling today, which strikes a devastating blow to the legal defense of Proposition 8. Their thorough and well-reasoned decision reveals marriage discrimination for what it is, discrimination, and it powerfully affirms the U.S. Constitution's promise of equal protection under the law. For the city and county of San Francisco, this fight began 8 years ago, almost to the day, when then Mayor Gavin Newsom boldly decided to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Really, he deserves a tremendous... Shortly after, San Francisco would distinguish itself as the first government in American history to sue to strike down marriage laws that discriminate against same-sex partners. Fortunately, we wouldn't be alone. In addition to the brave plaintiffs whose own rights and marriages hung in the balance, we successfully recruited nearly 24 other cities and counties statewide over 6 years, representing more than 17 million Californians in support of marriage equality. We've also come a long way. Though we're still fighting here in California today, 6 states and the District of Columbia issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. And I think we owe a debt of gratitude to all that began in this building 8 years ago. Together, we sharpened arguments for equality. And we put a human face on marriage discrimination. I know I speak for everyone in my office when I say how honored we are to continue work alongside the American Foundation for Equal Rights and its founder, Chad Griffin, an outstanding legal team led by David Boies and Ted Olson, and of course the couples they represent, Kristen Perry and Sandra Steer, and Paul Katami and Jeffrey Zarillo. I'm also very proud of the deputies in my office who've worked so hard on this appeal: Chief Deputy City Attorney Terry Stewart, Deputy City Attorneys Christine Van Aken and Molly Lee. And I also want to thank all the city officials whose support has been instrumental from the beginning. I know the term city family is sometimes criticized, but I can't think of a better, more fitting expression of what it means to have the strong support of Mayor Lee and the Board of Supervisors for a cause that matters so deeply to thousands of families in California and throughout the nation. Now, Terry Stewart and I are going to take your questions shortly, but as I mentioned, Mayor Lee and members of the board have some additional obligations, so I want to give them the opportunity to say a few words and to express their thoughts. So, Mayor Lee. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. You know, I've often said this is the year of the dragon, and the year of the dragon means you have to confront your challenges. You really have to confront them. And what a way to confront this challenge that's been with us for so many years. This is the greatest opportunity I've seen in civil rights for this generation. And it's one that I truly am celebrating with the city family. But I mostly want to thank the people who have battled this for so many years on behalf of all families in the state of California, in the Bay Area. This is a family issue. It's one that we felt true, that we were on the right side of history for so many years, but we still had to fight the battle. So without hesitation, I want to thank utmost our city attorney and his wonderful staff for continuing this battle in all the way to the federal court. It's been a wonderful, wonderful battle. 8 years ago, I watched as all of you on the various levels of this city hall as we knew that we were on the right side of history that many years ago. And we knew there was going to be some fights ahead of us. But we came together, we did the right thing, we started those marriages, and I was quietly, as your city minister at the time, going through as county clerk, getting the marriages ready. Well, we're going to do the same thing. We're getting ready. Because your constitutional rights shouldn't have to wait. They really should not have to wait for everybody else to catch up. This is the right thing to have done. I know that we still have court proceedings that we're going to be studying, but we need to take this opportunity to thank everybody that's been part of this great movement. I had a chance a couple of weeks ago at the U.S. Conference of Mayors to join mayors across this country on the Freedom to Marry movement. And you are hearing that more and more mayors and more states are accepting, recognizing the constitutional rights, and for this Federal Court of Appeals to have made such a significant ruling on this California proposition is very, very historic and very significant. So I want to thank everyone, but most importantly, in addition to the people that work very hard and the communities that work very hard, the hundreds of families that have waited for so long to be accepted equally in this society. I need to thank all of you. This is how our society comes together. These are moments when we can celebrate and recognize there is no difference among all of us. This is a family in large part for humanity. So thank you very much for being together and sticking together for very much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor Lee. And I would like to point out, I think that the mayor aptly pointed out about the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the step that they have taken to really broaden the constituency. And I want to thank the mayor for his leadership in that effort. And also to thank someone who was a participant in this case. He's not here today, but Mayor Jerry Sanders from San Diego, Republican mayor from San Diego, who stepped out and was a witness in this case. And I haven't had a chance to call him yet, but we owe him a tremendous debt of gratitude, and thank you, Mayor Lee, for your leadership at the Conference of Mayors.
And if I hadn't mentioned it, and I will join Dennis on this, I mean, Gavin Newsom was brave 8 years ago, completely brave, and I want to make sure you all know that has been something that I've been very fortunate to take up. But it's a cause that we will continue. But I want to personally thank Gavin for his leadership on this. It's been bold. Thank you.
And we're very lucky to have a tremendous board of supervisors that have been supportive. And on behalf of the board, speaking on their behalf, I'd like to invite Supervisor Scott Wiener and newly appointed Supervisor Christina Olagi to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Dennis, and I know that I'm speaking on behalf of the board, talk about how incredibly excited we all are today. And I can say that personally, in my past life as a deputy city attorney, I saw firsthand for years and years and years the steady leadership of my former boss and our great city attorney, Dennis Herrera. And so let's hear it for Dennis Herrera. Every so often we get a court ruling that reaffirms our faith in the judicial system and in our Constitution. Back in the 90s, when the Supreme Court struck down that abomination, Amendment 2 out of Colorado, that would have made gay people, LGBT people, second-class citizens, when the Supreme Court struck down the anti-sodomy laws that criminalized LGBT people just for being who we are. And now today, to have a federal appeals court recognize the basic humanity of LGBT people, not just in San Francisco, but everywhere. And it is a time for celebration today, a time for all of us to come together as a community. But then we have to get back to work because the fight is not done, and we have to see this through to the very end when we have permanent marriage equality for every single person in this country across the land. So thank you very much, everyone.
I wanted to mention Supervisor David Campos. He's also a member of our community, and he can't be here because he's out ill. So he did want to send his greetings and is also very thrilled about this decision. On days like this, it reminds me about how wonderful it is to live in San Francisco. I love San Francisco. It's a great city. I think this is not just it's a civil rights victory, but it's also a human rights victory. I think that we have a right, just like anyone else, to be married, to be divorced, to walk down the middle of Oklahoma openly queer in the middle of the day, and not be harassed and persecuted for who we are. So I believe this is a wonderful day for all of us, for all of those of us who are not just LGBTQ activists, but for human rights activists, because we deserve the right, just like everybody else, to be treated in a humane way. So I think it's just that simple. So I'm very proud to be a part of this city family who's fought so hard, and all the LGBTQ activists who fought so hard to make sure that this day happened. And maybe we'll catch up with Spain and some other parts of Europe. So it always was ironic to me, you know, there's such a Catholic country, and it's been legal there for many years, so we'll get there. I'm confident of that.
Thank you, Supervisor. And while those two supervisors spoke, I want to thank Supervisors Cohen, Chu, Ellsburn, Farrell, Avalos. We got everybody here. Jane Kim, David Chu, for being here, and former Supervisor Bevan Dufty. And before we open it up for questions, I'd like to just acknowledge, I know there are representatives here from Senator Leno's and Assemblyman Amiano's office, members from the Alice B. Toklas Club, members from Equality California. Thank you for being here. And there's another elected official here that I would like to give the opportunity to come up and say a few words before Terry and I open it up to questions, and that's our treasurer, Jose Cisneros.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to be here as a member of the gay community and as an elected official here in San Francisco. I want to recognize the great work of many of the folks behind me, but more importantly, many of the folks around us and in our community here. The incredible work of groups like NCLR and Equality California have championed this cause, and many, many, many other groups. I see so many representatives here today that have kept this issue alive, that have been out there in the streets, that have made sure that people never forget how important it is that everybody in our state and in our country have equal rights. Thank you so much, and congratulations on this grand victory.
And I know we have representatives from Marriage Equality USA here, so thank you very much. And with that, Terry and I will open it up to questions. Well, right now there's a stay in place from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. The other side in this case has the opportunity to seek an en banc hearing or to try and petition for cert to the U.S. Supreme Court. So for now, the stay stays in place, and we're just going to take it one step at a time and monitor as the legal proceedings develop. And I'll be in close contact with the mayor should that change. And he's assured me that the city mechanisms and machinery stands ready to do whatever it can to expedite marriages in the event that that was to be something that we could do. But right now, there's a stay in place. We're just going to take it one step at a time.
Mr. Mayor, what do you mean that you're getting ready then, provided you're going to honor the stay?
While we understay, as your former county clerk, I've instructed Karen Hong, our county clerk, to immediately communicate with all of the county clerks across the state, make sure we're using the same forms, get ready for the same processes. We want the dignity to be reflected in every jurisdiction of the state when that decision is handed down and hopefully the stay is lifted. And that's also been the wonderful part of it. When we did the marriages 8 years ago, we treated everybody with the same dignity as if you were coming in for marriage that we see every single day. That was what people wanted. So we're getting that experience ready for everyone.
Yeah. It says that the stay is in effect until the court issues a mandate. When would they do that, or are you saying that they'll challenge that issuance?
The earliest that they could issue a mandate is 21 days. And then we'll see. So we're going to monitor closely in the next 3 weeks to see how things develop.
What can they do to stop that mandate from happening in 21 days?
They can't do anything at this point.
The proponents of Prop 8 could, if they, for example, petition for cert or seek en banc review, they could ask the Ninth Circuit to extend the stay so that, you know, they haven't done that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They'll have to do that before the mandate issues, or they should.
So, Terry, the earliest that they could issue same-sex marriage licenses would be in 21 days?
Correct.
But realistically, unlikely, assuming that they ask for the stay to continue, that it would be denied?
I think you are correct. It's very unlikely that it would be denied.
What is the timetable you see as far as this case going eventually, possibly to the U.S. Supreme Court? When can it get there? How soon?
Well, right now we have to see whether they're going to petition for en banc review in the next 14 days. I'd say the earliest, that if there was not a petition for en banc review, the very earliest that something could happen would be going before the Supreme Court, if they were to accept cert, would be in the late fall, early winter of this year, but that's a very, very aggressive timeline.
Dennis, I didn't hear his question, but did you say that you thought it was likely that the state would stay in place?
I did.
And not to get technical, but doesn't the mandate automatically not issue if they appeal? There's no mandate.
That's
goes
correct.
out if an appeal is
That's
filed.
correct.
So
That's
therefore,
correct.
the stay would stay in effect.
That's correct.
They don't have to apply for the stay.
That's correct.
I was wondering if you could comment on the narrow scope of this ruling as opposed to what could have been a larger ruling.
Yeah. I mean, this is, if you go back and look at the briefing in this case, that is the exact argument that the city and Terry, that we made and Terry argued in the Ninth Circuit. If you read in the Chronicle this morning, there could have been a variety of ways in which this case went. The Ninth Circuit chose a narrow approach and ruling, which applies only to California. And they said that based upon the panoply of rights that are already given to LGBT people here in California, whether it be parental rights or domestic partnerships, a whole panoply, there was no rational basis to have Prop 8 be declared constitutional. So they limited it, and they said that was so focused on taking the dignity away from same-sex couples that there was no rational basis whatsoever, and they made it very, very narrow because it could not be reconciled with the panoply of rights that are already provided to LGBT people here in California. So that this violated the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution, but they applied it only to California. That's a narrow approach. They didn't go more broadly. And we are very gratified by how thoughtful and well-reasoned the Ninth Circuit's opinion was, and we look forward to continuing to making the arguments as we focus. Move on.
Are you disappointed that they didn't go farther, or was this what you basically were seeking?
I can't say we're disappointed at all. The most important thing is to make sure that we have the ability to marry same-sex couples here in California. That is what San Francisco has been focused on from when we started this fight 8 years ago. And this is another brick in the wall, another step in the process. And if you look at how far we have come in 8 years with 6 states and the District of Columbia issuing marriage licenses, I'm not disappointed with the ruling at all. And, and in fact, I'm very gratified with where we're at today, and we continue to make progress and move forward.
Do you think the fact that it's somewhat narrower might stand in our stead with regard to the Supreme Court rejecting it?
That's certainly, I don't pretend to be in the minds of justices, but as we know, the High Court oftentimes likes to take cases when they are ready for them. They like to take an incremental approach. And as we see how things have developed in 8 years, we've seen progress. And I have no doubt that the tide of history is on our side. So I'm sure that whether it's a narrow or broad decision will inform how the justices look at the case and how they decide whether to take it or not. But I don't pretend to be in their minds. So, but I'm sure it plays a little bit.
Mr. Mayor, is there any frustration that you have this awesome ruling, but yet same-sex couples cannot marry and may not be able to marry for months, if not years?
You know, I've never gotten cynical on this. I think we've always had hope in our mind that the right thing would be done, and this is another verification of it. And as Dennis said earlier, it's a brick, but it's a huge brick It's one that we've been waiting for because we needed that confirmation from these courts. Because we had gone through those years where, God, is it legal, is it not legal? Challenges. We had quite a few hundred that were caught in the middle, and it was very frustrating. So I think we're now beginning to relieve that level of frustration and really build a good foundation for hope, not only for our city, for the state of California. It's really a time that saves us in terms of our understanding how equal we all are under the law. And that, to me, is a really positive message that's being sent out. So we're not going to get frustrated. We're going to keep that hope alive, and we're going to keep this foundation strong, and we're going to get ready. I do think and I feel that this is the time when hopefully those appeals will be exhausted and we finally get a confirmation of equity and equality for this state, but also a very strong signal for the rest of the country. Well, hate crimes obviously is something that we always want to be vigilant about. I don't anticipate a lot of hate crimes. I know we are very strong in responses to that, predictability, but you know, everybody has a right to protest their views in our city, and we've accepted that. But I do think this is the right direction, and I know that over the years, many other people have recognized this right as they apply it to themselves and as they apply it to all the diverse families of this Bay Area region and of the state. So we're not afraid of that kind of risk, if you will. We think that there won't be that kind of backlash. I do think this has been in front of everybody for a long time, and I think the degree of acceptability and understanding is foundationally there. Thank you.
Question for Terry. What are the lines of argument that you all, the city and county, made during the oral arguments that you all saw reflected in the opinion?
You'll recall that we tried the case on a very broad theory to try to show, because we didn't know where the case was going to go, that no matter where you are in the country, it doesn't make any sense. It's not a rational thing to deprive gay people of the right to marry, and we relied on the Due Process Clause as well as the Equal Protection Clause. On appeal, we felt that it would be important to add a separate voice to say that in addition to those arguments that the plaintiffs continued to advance, where the court could make a very broad ruling, there's a particular reason in California why the law here, the stripping the title of marriage, is irrational. And that's because Prop 8 didn't change any of the family laws that basically treat gay and lesbian families the same. And so it's not discouraging people from having children or raising children. And so all of the arguments that were advanced by the other side are peculiarly irrational under California law. That enables the court to decide the issue in terms of California and Prop 8 without necessarily reaching what has to happen in the rest of the states. And as I think the city attorney, my boss and good friend Dennis, said earlier, that the Supreme Court often likes to act incrementally, so it gives an alternative, and in this case, the Ninth Circuit took that alternative, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to review the entirety of the opinion, but I think it was a fairly strong ruling with respect to what it was that Terry and I alluded to, which was the motivation behind Proposition 8, that there's no rational basis upon which to have put Proposition 8 forward, but for wanting to single out one group for discriminatory treatment, especially as morally repugnant as it is when you're just focused, when they were focused on the title without going after any of the panoply of rights that LGBT people have here in California. So I think that really struck them, that in terms of the motivation, singling out LGBT individuals to go after them simply because of that. And I think that was getting to that motivation was something that was key in informing their decision.
Can you also talk about the significance of the decision that Walker did not need to recuse himself because he's a gay man?
Yeah, I have to tell you that to me that was a line of argument that I found particularly offensive in terms of when it was first made in the trial court to all the way through up. I mean, what would it say about that if you follow that line of reasoning, as ridiculous as it is, that means a woman couldn't sit on a gender discrimination case, or an African-American judge couldn't sit on a race discrimination case. I think that was particularly offensive, and I am really gratified that they rejected that out of hand.
Is there a possibility the Supreme Court might, might not want to weigh in on this at all, and accept that why not?
Certainly, there's an opportunity. There's a chance that the Supreme Court could deny taking this case up. They need 4 votes. They could deny taking this up, and then that case, the Ninth Circuit's ruling, is final, and that would apply here in the state of California, and we can move forward.
What would, if, depending on how this goes forward, what would the city of San Francisco's policy be for the Catholic Church in terms of marriage? Because the Catholic Church would not be doing same-sex marriage. Would there be some kind of action the U.S. city attorney would take?
I think that the city's position has always been clear, that this is, we are dealing with civil marriage, and we are not dealing with the religious traditions of various faiths with respect to marriage. We have been focused only on civil marriage, and we've been consistent with that for the last 8 years, and that's where things will lie.
So you would be supporting the religious liberty of the church to marry how they wish, whether
That has always been the city's position, that each faith we leave it up to them to decide how they want to exercise their religious traditions. We've been only dealing with civil marriage, and that's where our focus continues to lie. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll ask you the same question I asked the mayor. Any frustration on the fact that you have this winning opinion? Nonetheless, there won't be any same-sex marriages for the conceivable future.
Well, let me tell you, I don't think that this decision alone, we've been dealing with this for 8 years, and there's been a lot of ups and downs. And there has been frustration that we've had to wait 8 years because justice delayed is justice denied. But you have to look at the progress that has also been made in that time frame. And I choose to be an optimist and to focus on the progress that we have made in understanding that the tide of history is on the side of marriage equality. So certainly I wish that, when we dealt with this years ago, that was the end of it. But that's not the reality of how things sometimes happen in America. And, it's hard to fight. But you have to, and I want to focus on the progress that we have made, and that's something that I'm very gratified by. Last question.
So if they do go for en banc, is there anything you can do to get this through that faster to the Supreme Court?
If the case goes en banc, I imagine what will happen is that probably both sides will encourage the Ninth Circuit to proceed on an expedited schedule, and the Ninth Circuit has done so before. But that's about as much as you can do if they decide to take it en banc. And they could do that either because of party petitions or on the court's own motion. I think the latter is fairly unlikely.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Also, we have the new